This video is brought to you by Augustus Wealth. The SpaceX S-1, a confidential S-1 filing for an initial public offering with the SEC on April 1st, 2026. First time in the company's history.
SpaceX now confidentially filing to go public in what would be one of the biggest IPOs ever.
Elon Musk, SpaceX. Elon Musk is. So SpaceX.
Ahead of its IPO, SpaceX.
SpaceX, as you might have heard.
SpaceX. SpaceX IPO. SpaceX.
A $2 trillion valuation is expected. And if everything goes according to the timeline, roadshow starts June 8th. Every financial outlet on the planet is writing about it. But here's what nobody is telling SpaceX shareholders. One line in that prospectus costs most of them 6 months of their life. Not 6 months of salary, 6 months of work for free, handed over, and most of them have no idea it happened yet. For 4 months, SpaceX shareholders have been guessing. What's the real valuation? How many shares are outstanding? And what's the real dilution from the XAI merger? And when does this so-called lockup period start? What does it actually affect? It's the current shareholders. And what does that mean for the shareholders that have ISOs that are sitting in your equity portal? You could model it, estimate it, run 3 scenarios of different valuations, and hope one was close. Over the span of the last 4 months, since the IPO rumor hit in December, I've had dozens of weekly meetings and communication with SpaceX shareholders. The majority asking the same question. What does this mean for my shares? With each passing week, a new deadline, a new filing, a new blackout, all adding to the urgency of the moment. SpaceX shares skyrocketed in the last 6 months. Even though the writing was on the wall, nobody saw it happening this quickly. It's put most shareholders on their heels because the possible has shifted to the probable. The trade-offs and opportunity cost magnified. And with each new triggering event and filing, the urgency is unparalleled. And in my 20+ year career, I've never experienced anything like it. The S-1 goes public. Every number you actually needed to make a real decision on is now on record. Not a tender memo, not a Slack rumor, not a founder tweet, an SEC filing. And 3 of those numbers will likely rewrite the math for every shareholder holding equity in the company. Number 1, share count, confirmed, which means the implied per share price at IPO isn't a range anymore, it's a number. Number 2, dilution from the XAI merger, also confirmed, which means the shares you thought you held are worth a different number of dollars than they were 2 weeks ago. And lucky number 3, the lockup terms, now on the record, which means the low liquidity zone you've been planning around isn't a framework anymore, it's a calendar with dates. Now, after the fog lifts from the S-1 filing, that should be good news. Except for most shareholders, the fog was the only thing protecting them from seeing what their decisions already cost. Here's the thing I want you to understand about any of this. Because of the concentration of SpaceX shares, every number in the S-1 is probably a unit of your life. Every dollar you pay to the IRS in April because you didn't plan is a dollar you earned by showing up, by working weekends, by missing dinners, by watching your kid's soccer game on FaceTime from a hotel room in Texas. You already traded your time for that dollar once. And when you go to write that check in April, you're trading it again for nothing. So let me translate what the S-1 actually does. If you hold a block of ISOs and you didn't exercise before the S-1 dropped, in most cases, you just move from the cheap window to the expensive one. The tax difference on a meaningful position can easily run 6 figures. At a senior engineer's after-tax salary, as a household, 6 figures is roughly 6 months of work. 6 months of code reviews, 6 months of sprint planning, 6 months of Slack messages and design docs, 6 months of waking up at 6 a.m. and grinding through your day. Gone. Paid to the IRS for nothing you got anything in return for. That's one line on the S-1. The lockup is the same story in a different costume. A 6-month lockup is not a calendar event. It's a decision about your life. It's the house you don't close on this year, the renovation you held off on, the business idea you couldn't fund, the sabbatical you push out another year, and doing everything anything possible to increase liquidity and maximize shares, whether that's paying for tax with cash or being able to exercise shares before the spread is likely to increase. For most shareholders, the lockup isn't boring, it's expensive. And the dilution number is the subtlest one. Your share count didn't change, but what those shares are worth changed. If you thought you were sitting on an 8-figure paper position and the post-merger math pulls your per share number back, your plan has to shift with it. It's not a panic, it's a shift. Because the thing most people forget is the goal was never the equity. The goal was the asset base you build after the equity converts. And the asset base has a non-linear curve. Critical mass is where your life starts paying you back instead of the other way around. So if the S-1 just changed what you're converting from, it changed how soon you reach that curve. So here's what to do. Not 10 things, 3. Pull your grant summary. This week, every ISO, every RSU, every vest date, every strike price. If you can't produce the whole picture on one page, you don't have a strategy, you have a pile. 2, run your numbers against valuation. Not a guess, not a range, the actual number. Find out what your tax exposure looks like now, not what it looked like a month ago. 3, decide what you're not willing to give back. Put a dollar number on it. Put a time number on it. If the answer is 0 more months of my life working for free, good. The S-1 isn't the reason this video exists. The S-1 is just the alarm clock. The low liquidity zone was always coming. The tax bill was always going to be there. The lockup was always going to happen. And there might be some variation of it, but for the most part, you have to plan for one. You can't rely on additional liquidity or different terms, even though it's Elon Musk. What's going to change is that you're going to be able to see all of it now with the S-1 filing. On paper, in dollars, with dates, which means the excuse, I didn't have the information, is gone. You showed up every day for years to earn this equity. The hard part is done. The question now is how many of those months you're willing to give back. Every calculator on AugustusWealth.com is free. There's no login. Run your numbers against the S-1. Then decide whether you need a strategy or just more guessing. And when you're ready, hit ready to talk and let's connect. You already earned the position. A strategy is how you keep it.